our part one of driving the Natchez Trace Parkway, where the National Park calls it
a long, narrow park.
National Park. Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of a parkway, it's a long, narrow national park.
Right, 444 miles to be exact.
Day one, we just went from Natchez, Mississippi to Tupelo, Mississippi. And we'll tell you some of the highlights that we thought were great.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
So what is the Natchez Trace? The Natchez Trace is just a trail that was used by early explorers, Indians, and then as America started expanding in the late 1700s, early 1800s, many people were continuing to use this road as means of travel. And later it was used by cane tucks, is what they air quotes here.
From Kentucky.
Yeah, from Kentucky. These cane tucks. What they would do is they would take, sorry.
For those of you that like correct pronunciation, it was Kentucky.
Kentucky, yes. Anyway, what they would do is they would have goods, crops, things that they built and made and anything. They would put them on these wooden flatboats and they would float them down the Mississippi River until they got to Natchez or New Orleans, where they could sell these things. They would even sell their flatboat.
Their mode of transportation.
Their mode of transportation. They would sell that as well because their flatboats were no match for the old mighty Mississippi going back north.
What didn't move probably got sold.
Yeah. So, and then they would walk back. They would walk back to Nashville. So that's basically what the Natchez Trace is. What the National Park has done is come in and paved a road very close to the old Natchez Trace. And there's sections that you can actually drive or walk or hike the old trace.
And the old trace is really nothing more than trail through the woods.
Yes.
If you can just imagine a long, a wide trail, it's a beaten down path. And there are sections all along this trace where you can actually get out and look at, well, what is believed to be part of that old trace.
And as it like this road like improved and things like that, people would put stands. They called them stands. We call them motels now, or inns, but they had stands, and this was for people would have a house and they would allow the travelers to stay because it was 444 miles.
Yeah.
They weren't going to make it in a day, so they had to have some place to stay. So along there were stands. Now none of these are still standing.
The stand is not standing.
The stand is not standing. No. We started out Natchez, Mississippi, and of course you have to get your sign picture. Jerry loves pictures. The first thing that we came to, I mean, there's different sites that you can stop at, so do your research. Stop at the ones that you really think are important to you.
That interests you. I mean, there are a lot you could stop at. You could take, you could take all day just to go 50 miles.
The first thing that we stopped at was the Emerald Mound. Now, Emerald Mound, again, Indian burial grounds, ceremonial grounds, mound built up. It is actually an 8-acre mound.
Yeah, I wasn't very pumped. I'm thinking, great, I'm gonna go see this big pile of dirt where Indians were buried under it.
He thought we were seeing a pile of dirt.
Okay, but it's not what I thought.
Yeah. Here we are at Emerald Mounds on the Natchez Trace Parkway. You see a really large mound that we have to walk up. I guess it's neat.
Okay, so
apparently this is the second largest mound in the U.S.
And it shows you kind of, it gives you an idea of how they did it, where they would just have, they had baskets. And so they would go to areas and they would dig up the dirt, put it in the baskets, and they would just go basket by basket by basket, and they would make these mounds. And there were some of them that had a mound of dirt, and then it was flat on top, and then they would do another mound at the end of it, and that may be where the temple was.
So apparently right there on the secondary mound, probably a temple, they're saying on that sign that we just saw, would have been a temple. So 8 acres of this mound, which apparently was already a natural hill, and they just built it up some more. Here you can kind of get a sense of how high the mound really is that we're standing on right now. You see this slope? So I mean, it is pretty neat. And we can go up. We're going to try and go up to that secondary mound where a temple,
Which is, of course, the highest point.
which is, like he said.
Yeah, what he said.
I'm not going to repeat it. Maybe we can't go up. Maybe it's just going to go back around to where we were.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a sign
well.
that says stay off.
So
Stay off the slope. So, well, there's you an idea.
we circled the secondary mound. And there's all your 8 acres of emerald mound on the Natchez Trace. The second thing that we would recommend is Mount Locust. Now Mount Locust, those stands that people could come in and stay along the trace. Now when we were there, it was closed, apparently.
Yeah.
Staffing shortages. It was closed, I think, from December 16th to January 4th, so we couldn't drive up to it. I mean, they had the gate locked. So we missed out on that, but we would suggest go and see that. We thought it was pretty cool.
From a distance, it looked like it would have been really nice,
Yeah.
just to be able to see how that was all made up.
Yeah. Next thing was Windsor Ruins. Now, Windsor Ruins is not on the trace.
No.
You do have to drive, like leave the trace and drive, and I don't remember what road it was, but look at your map and find it.
And it's not that far off the trace,
No.
so you do have to go. But
This is Windsor Ruins. It's the columns left from
1861 was when it was first built.
it was a mansion,
Yes, a massive mansion.
a massive mansion built by a cotton farmer,
Well, a cotton planter. Now,
Oh.
imagine that.
a planter. Imagine.
Cotton was a high commodity back then.
So apparently they had a lot of money.
Yeah.
But there was
It
a
burned in 1890.
Yeah, in 1890, the only thing that survived were these giant columns. Holy smokes, these things are big.
And the ironwork that you see.
Yeah. But there is currently construction.
So it kind of messes up the whole idea. This was
Anyway, so this was going to be a cool site
can't
until
walk in there and see them and touch them.
construction. But they're doing a renovation project that was going to cost $3.7 million to like make sure these things stood and were okay. Holy smokes, 3.7 million just to renovate just the columns. Can you imagine that? But it's really neat, really great. What is that iron up there?
Well, it said ironwork, so I assume so.
We're assuming that's iron up top. Here's a close-up of those. I'm not really holding this really good, but I'm trying. Of all that detail. Look at that. That is crazy. That's crazy good detail. I'm just going to come down this column. I assume that was stucco. That's what it said in the, and of course they had brick. But
Yeah,
this,
the old is crumbling right there.
so it was worth the trip. There was also a really giant oak tree. Like, we don't know, maybe it was from the 1800s too, because it was big.
It might have been.
It might have been, because it was a giant oak tree. Here's a little bit more of a distant shot of this massive tree. Look at it. And then you can see the, oh shoot, I forgot the name just that quick. Windsor Ruins.
Windsor Castle Mansion.
Windsor Castle Mansion. Again,
What a fitting tree for a big mansion.
yeah,
like that.
fitting tree for a giant mansion. But it is pretty neat to see. So if you're on the Natchez Trace or anywhere near this area, come see it. Sunken Trace. Once you get back on the Natchez Trace Parkway, they have a stop there. It's called Sunken Trace. So this is called the Sunken Trace. It's part of the old Natchez Trace,
Yes.
the trail. And they say, once again they say, over time, and people traveling with wagons, horses, all of these things, foot traffic, the soil eroded. Whatever.
Yeah, can you imagine taking horse trailer, not trailer, but a wagon down through here? Wow, it's bad enough to walk.
But look how, I mean, this is just really eroded. It's really high on each side.
The idea that's brought out by the National Park is to walk down there and just try to picture and what it was like back then for people to travel that way.
Yes, and so you can walk down through that trail, that section of the trail, the old trail, and that was really neat. The next stop we made was Grindstone Ford. A Ford, apparently we learned what a Ford was. It's not a Ford truck.
It's not. It's not just an automobile.
It's not just an automobile. No, it was a shallow place in the river where the people would find to cross the river. And that's what the Ford was. So we stopped there at Grindstone Ford, walked down to where the river used to be. I assume beavers. We saw a beaver dam. They have messed it up.
There's no
basically.
river anymore. Yeah.
There's no water, but you could see it was all mushy and marshy, and you could see where it used to be. But we also were able to find some old gravestones.
1700s.
Yeah, there at the Grindstone Ford. So make sure to pull in there and stop by there. Next stop, Owens Creek Waterfall. Now, it is not a giant waterfall, but it is a waterfall. It is a nice little pool of water at the end of that. And if it hadn't been, super cold and ice, almost, we might could put your feet in there.
And if you're able, it's much better if you can walk down the path and get down there to where the water and the waterfall is at. But it's not an easy trek, but it's not hard. So please don't misunderstand. But it can be a little challenging if you have trouble walking or have any limitations.
Yeah, and I think just a basic walking stick and being sure-footed would it would be fine. But we were hunting down there for
Gold.
Well, he was hunting for gold. Arrowheads, what a great place. Here we are at Owens Creek Waterfall.
Gary's heading for gold.
Gary's panning for gold. We haven't found any gold. We have been looking for arrowheads. However, that was a neat stop. Moving on from Owens Creek was Rocky Springs. Now this is a campground area that you can stop at if you're pulling your RV or if you've just got a tent. if you're riding your bike. These are just some of the sites. We're just going to be driving in the truck. These are some of the sites here at, what was this, Rocky Springs?
Yes, Rocky Springs.
Rocky Springs. So if you bring your RV, you can, I mean, they're small, there's no hookups. You're just on your own as far as that goes. So just wanted to show you just a few of the little sites. That was a site. There's a pull through. We're pulling through this one. This one's pretty nice, but they have picnic tables and fire rings. But that's about it on these sites.
And it is first come, first served.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no numbers, so you're not reserving anything. As you can see, that site. There's also an old town site here at Rocky Springs. So if you drive through the campground, make sure to drive on up to the old town site. So apparently this is the, I always say so apparently because I don't know. The old town site of Rocky Springs.
Says population in 1860 was 2,616. Population today, 0.
There you go. See it for yourself. This is just a loop trail.
I think you can probably tell it's at 0.
Of where the old town was. Here, this is an old fire pit, I guess. A cistern. I'm just kidding, people.
No ceiling.
May mark the site. May mark. You see why I say apparently? It may mark the site. All right. So how do we get down there?
In the wall.
Ooh. Maybe this is the banker's safe.
I'm going to pick it up and take it to the truck.
Okay, Jerry's picking this up. You see, yeah. Not moving that one.
No, sir.
The first post office at Rocky Springs. We have found another old safe. We found it. For the original. The old safe. I could fit in that. Oh gracious, that's giant. And a cistern. Look down in it. It's really dark. Hope nothing.
Concrete.
Oh, look. Hello. Rocky Springs Methodist Church. Church services will meet this Sunday. Oh, wait, no. There's no pastor. It looks like they have the last Sunday of the month at 11 o'clock. Okay. So anyway, that's the sign.
I wonder if they actually still live here. Well, that building looks like it's in good shape, and those are not old windows. At least that one right there is not.
So there's the church, Rocky Springs Church. There's there clearly is a church. Some of you may get that. There's the church out there. There's the building. So if you're on the Natchez Trace and you come by, stop in at Rocky Springs. It's really neat. We'll trail up to the church and the old, I don't know, town site.
Yeah, say hi to the locals.
They have these little markers right there that tell you about the town and what was so great about it during that time and what happened to it, why it is no longer. So those are really informative. I thought it was really a great stop to get out and walk up to that. So
I agree.
there's the death of Rocky Springs. And here is information. Great. After Rocky Springs, there was about 4 or 5 stops that we wanted to stop at. We knew from Jackson to Tupelo. It was getting dark. So we didn't make all of them that we wanted to stop at, but we just said, okay, forget it. We're going to drive on to Tupelo. So right outside of Jackson is the reservoir overlook. Giant reservoir. I'm like, why didn't you just call it a lake? I've never understood. But anyway, it's a huge reservoir. Don't miss Cypress Swamp. It is a boardwalk. It is small. It is a small boardwalk. We were there at really dark.
It was cold.
Here we are at the Cypress Swamp. We're going to walk this boardwalk trail. It's, it's getting a little dark.
And cold.
So, sorry about the
shaking phone because she's shivering.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nasty, oh Lord, that's nasty.
So here's the Cypress Swamp. We're not going to walk this whole thing because obviously it's dark and we're frozen. I know. This is neat though.
Yes.
It's nice that they put a boardwalk. There's the moon. Wow. That's neat. Oh, look at that water. That's grody. So this boardwalk is not that long, which currently in our current condition.
We're glad.
Great. The next site that I really wanted to see was Jeff Busby campground, campsites, whatever. It was a bigger than Rocky Springs. It was supposed to be bigger than that, where you could camp. There was campsites, again, no hookup. And they had like a little drive to an overlook, which was the highest point in Mississippi on the trace. And we were not able to do it because it was dark. So that gets us to Tupelo. And we have a part 2. So if you want to watch our part 2, click on this next video that's coming up.
Yeah, don't miss it.
Don't miss it. This massive root right here impressed Jerry. Of all the things we've seen, this made Jerry pause.
Well, that was real. That's not man-made.
There it is. It looks like a little bitty tree. And look at all the other roots. It's got fingers.
That is actually called a spider tree. No, not really.
Yep, almost believed him.